Hey everyone, and welcome back to the final installment of this series on creating a crossbow using the box modeling technique. Now, in our previous tutorial, we went over how to create new objects within our scene and attaching those objects to our working mesh, as well as using the inset tool to create a trigger and crosshairs. In this tutorial, we'll go over what to look out for when modeling. So to start off, we'll go over our model to see if we can tweak anything we wish to change. So I'll go to the handle here, and I just don't like this little corner part here. So what I'll do is I'll go to the edible poly. I'll make sure I have the model selected. Go to vertex selection, and in this little corner here, see how it's kind of protruding out a little bit at an awkward angle. See how the polygon's a bit distorted as well. So I'll just move this in a bit here. So I'll just go to the bottom view and I'll just move it in as well. I might even make it a little bit more rounded as well. So I'll just select the two most in vertices and just move them out. That way we've got a nice clean curve around here, and also what we can do, we can add a few more loops around the base of this underneath that detail there. So I'll just go to the left view, zoom in, make it invisible, and I'll just highlight all of these polygons around here. So that way they're highlighted. Press P and scroll down, connect, and I'll just scroll back up, vertex selection, and I'll just connect the end of that edge loop there, the vertice of it, to the most inward vertice in here, just so we can get a nice fluid poly flow, or edge flow I should say. Okay, so once that's done, we can just go down to the handle and add a few more loops in here. So I'll just make that uninvisible again. I'll just scroll down, make sure edge selection's on. I'll just scroll down and I'll just connect a few more. Actually, I'll go to the left view and whoops, we'll just add a few more. Okay, and we'll just simply either scale them in or scale them out, however you want. Just move these back ones in a bit as well, just so a bit more curvature happening there. And I'll just move this bottom here, and I'll scale that in as well. And just simply get a nice fluid motion around the base there. Nice edge flow. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Another thing too I just want to do is just fix up this little detailed area here. So I'll just go in here, go to the left view, go to vertex selection, make it invisible, and I'll just select all the bottom vertices that make up that extra detail there. So if I just perspective again, it's all the ones that are extruding out there. So, and I'll just deselect these ones here, holding Alt to deselect. Go back to left view, and I'll just align them on the Z axis. That way it's a nice straight line that makes up that extruded detail there. We can also move this up as well, make it a bit more thin. I'll go to perspective view, and I'll just do the same for the top as well. So I'll just select all the vertices that make up that top part, extruded part, and I'll just scroll around, holding control, and just highlighting all those vertices there. So you've got all the vertices on the inmost part just before where it extrudes up, and we'll just simply align that to the Z axis as well. So left view, also move this down a bit, just so we got a nice thin detail. I'll also move this part down a bit as well. Oops, I'll just make sure I highlight that end piece and move it down. Move this back up. So there. That way, get a nice thin detailed line there. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, so once you're happy with the overall model, check to see if you have any polygons that are greater than 4 sides. If you find any, simply convert them into quads or tris. What I mean by more than 4 sides, I'll just go into here for a second. Just go to the front part here. As you can see, I deleted a edge just so I can show you what n-gon type polygon looks like. So if I go to the vertex selection, and this polygon here, I'll just turn off grid for a second. this polygon here has more than 4 sides to it. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this isn't great. It's always best to keep them at quads, as in 4 sides, or triangles. So to fix this, you can simply select each vertice that's on either side of the polygon, possibly the ones that look like they can be connected together. So I'll just highlight these two. As you can see, it looks like there should be a line that should go across here, an edge, sorry. So just go to vertex, I'll select them both, scroll down, and I'll just connect them together. That way we've just created two polygons that have 4 sides, which is fine. Okay, so also remember to keep the edge flow of the model clean. So what I mean by edge flow is, if I select all these, I'll just select the middle here, and just to give you an example, I'll bump this all the way up, probably about here. Now, these edges here are not necessary at all. They do not benefit whatsoever. They do not distort the model. They're just simply there as a nuisance. Now, we don't need any of these edges here, so I just wanted to show you what edge flow is. So if I'll just cancel out of that, edge flow is pretty much keeping everything at a reasonable density. So the handle here looks pretty good. It's all the edges are doing their job there. They're defining the model a bit more. So if you find any edges that are not necessary or just clutter up the room or whatnot, like for the strings here, you don't necessarily need this many edges that create the string. So we can just go in here and select every second one, just scroll around, every second one there, and we can just simply delete them. So we've pretty much halved our string. So if you want to keep going, actually I'll just undo that. I'll make sure I got these ones as well. So I'll just go loop, and I'll just simply control backspace. So that way it's got the top ones up here as well. So we've pretty much just halved this string here without really affecting its shape. So we can just do the same for the bottom string as well. So I'll just select all the second edges around the string, about there, and just go loop, make sure everything's there, and I'll just go control backspace, and there we have it. So we've pretty much lowered our poly count a little bit further, and we haven't jeopardized the shape of our model at all. So always keep the poly flow or edge flow in mind when you're cleaning up your model. Okay, also too, make sure there's no floating vertices anywhere in your model. What I mean by floating vertices is, if you come down to the bottom of this model here, I've inserted a vertice that isn't actually doing anything. So if I move this up, you can see that the polygons are distorting pretty badly when I move that vertice down. Now this isn't a good thing to have as well. So to remove any vertices that are doing nothing at all, simply just go to the vertex selection, select the vertice, and then backspace on that. So that way you're cleaning up your model and you're not having any stray vertices that can jeopardize your model's shape. So also too, be aware of flipped normals. So if I hide symmetry modifier, I'll select these polygons here, and I'll just scroll down, and I'll just flip them around. Now instantly they turn into like a big hole. If you rotate around there for a second, you can see that the polygons are still there, but they've just flipped sides. Now just be aware of these polygons. That's why it's a good idea to have backface color on. That way you'll be able to see if you have any polygons that are facing the wrong way. This could also affect your unwrap as well when you're texturing your models. So just be aware of flip polygons. So I'll just unflip those back. So also too, be aware of overlapping polygons. So if I go over to here, I'll create some polygons. I'll turn on grid again. I'll create a plane, just any basic plane. I'll center it to the world axis. I'll create another plane, and I'll center that to the world axis as well. So as you can see, it's doing this crazy etching around both planes. This is called Z finding. Now what Z finding is trying to fight to see which plane is more in front than the other. So since they're on equal axes, then they're both going to be fighting each other, and it's going to end up with strange artifacting like this. So be aware of this as well. If you ever see anything like this on your models, it's probably because there are two polygons right against each other. So it's best to just separate those polygons if you need them, or just simply delete the one that's not being used. So just be aware of this as well. So I'll just delete that. Okay, so I'll just rotate back around. I'll turn on symmetry again. Now, another thing to be aware of too is if you're ever using symmetry, the symmetry modifier, and you have a little bit of gaps in your model, like the gap behind this this handle here, or the gap down here and all that, it's best to be aware of these, because the symmetry only picks up what is in its threshold. You can either fix this by upping its threshold, or fixing the vertices that are supposed to be in the center of the model. So what I'll do, I'll just turn off symmetry modifier for a second. I'll press F for front, and I'll go down to the editable poly. I'll make sure vertex selection's on, make the model invisible, and I'll just align all the center vertices in line with the world axis. So just scroll down and make sure I got the the XYZ align axis tool in view, and I'll zoom in, I'll highlight all of the vertices that need to be aligned to the Y axis. So just highlight the string, holding control, highlight all the way down, just zoom out a bit, highlight all the way down, all the ones that are in the middle here, and down to here. Make sure you don't select the ones that are just on the outside of the center, otherwise they're going to distort as well. So I'll just make sure I've selected them all of them. I'll just press P, and I'll just rotate around, make sure I've got all of them selected. Yeah, they look good. All these ones selected. Just rotate around there for a second. Yep. Yeah, they look all good. Except for these ones down here, so I'll just select these ones as well. So I'll go front, and I'll select all of those handle ones as well, and I'll just align them to the X axes, and they've all aligned, all in the center here. So if I go back up, I'll untick vertices, I'll turn on symmetry modifier on, I'll press P. Now everything's pretty much in line, and there's no open edges anywhere in our model. Okay. Now, the last thing to keep in mind is smoothing groups. Now, I explained briefly what smoothing groups are in the previous tutorial, so I'll just scroll down. If I select polygon, I'll just scroll down, and we want to start smoothing out our model. So strings here are kind of, if I turn off wiring for a second, turn that off. Oops. You can see the strings are very squarish, so we don't want that. We want them to be kind of like a round type shape. So we can go to the polygon tool, polygon selection, scroll down, and I'll just highlight both of these strings, and I'll just set the smoothing group to 1. So that way, now if I scroll back up, turn that off, they look as if they're rounded. So it's always a great idea to do this after you've finished modeling. That way you can kind of see how your model will act, and the same for the front bows as well. So I'll just highlight the end polygons here, and I'll just grow them out, grow. Oops, too much, and I'll just select that one as well, and we'll just set these smoothing groups to 2, and just scroll back up. I'll go to edit element. I'll select all of these spiked pieces here. All these ones here. Oops, undo. And I'll scroll back down, and I'll just set these to 1 smoothing group as well. So it's starting to smooth out the areas that we don't want, and it's making the model look a bit more cleaner than what it should be. So always keep this in mind. The same thing with the handle as well. So actually, I'll just select this. Grow. Go to left view. Grow. And I'll just scroll down, and I'll set this to 2, so it rounds the handle off a bit more. So just unselect that. It's smoothened out the the handle as well. So if you go around the model and smoothen out areas which you think might need smoothening, then that's fine. Okay, so once everything's done, we can then reset X-form. Now what reset X-form is, if you have a model that's all rotated and it's on a different axis than the world axis, and you want it to have the same transform to the world transform. So if I just go down here and localize it, as you can see, the rotation's a bit off now. Its local rotation is not in line with the world rotation. So if I go back to the world rotation, the gizmo is moving all over the place. So if we go to reset X-form, so I'll just go into the utilities, reset X-form, and reset selected, watch what happens to the gizmo. Reset selected. The gizmo will reset to the world transforms. So if you have a model that's all rotated and skewered and you want to keep it like that, but you want to start rotating it along its world axes or its local axes, then just simply reset X-form. It's always best to do this for every model that you create. So just be aware of the reset X-form when applying this. So I'll just apply the X-form, apply that X-form. Even though it didn't change it, it's still a good idea to do it. I'll just set the X-form below the symmetry and I'll collapse to, right-clicking the X-form, collapse down to the edible poly. So collapse to, hold yes, and there we have it. We've got our X-form collapsed, our transforms to the world, and everything's in line. So the last thing to do is just move your axis or your pivot point to the handle, because that's where technically the bow will be rotating. If a player's holding the bow and you want to rotate it around, it's going to rotate at the handle. So if it's not at the handle, you can simply just go effect pivot only, or before you do that, just simply move the model, the handle, to the center of the world, so in the grid line, and then effect pivot only, and move, reset the transform gizmo back to the world axes. So 0, 0, 0, all on the XYZ. Okay, so that's basically it for these tutorials. If you would like to know more about these basic tutorials or have any more questions about these methods, there are supplementary links in the provided documents within the learning materials, so please feel free to check out that documentation as well. Okay, thank you for watching.